Have you ever met someone and felt as if you already knew them? As though your souls connected before your bodies ever did? That strange pull, that deep sense of familiarity, that feeling that no amount of time could weaken a bond because it was never created by time in the first place. I once heard a story. Two strangers were seated beside each other on a train. They did not exchange names or contact information, only a glance and a quiet pause. Yet within that silence, something meaningful passed between them. 10 years later, they crossed paths again. This time, that single look became the beginning of a shared life. Carl Jung believed that certain encounters are not random. They are alignments. They are timeless reflections of what the soul already understands. When two people are truly meant to meet, even time seems to step aside. Souls do not operate by clocks. They move through resonance. In this video, we will explore Jung's enduring philosophy, why soul connections go beyond logic, how the unconscious prepares us long before we realize it, and why even when paths separate, the connection can remain. Stay until the end, because whether you have already met that person or are still waiting, this may help you understand what your heart has always sensed. If you have ever caught yourself believing that your worth depends on someone else's attention, write the word free in the comments. That is the first step toward inner freedom. Some individuals enter your life, and it does not feel like a first meeting. It feels like remembering something familiar. Carl Jung did not frequently use the term soulmate, but he spoke extensively about the psyche, the self, and the unseen structure of human connection. He believed that beneath ordinary relationships lies something deeper and timeless. He referred to this as a collective unconscious, a vast, invisible field where all human souls are linked. In that realm, time holds no authority. The ego may forget, but the soul does not. So when two people meet and feel as though they have known each other forever, it is not simply poetic language. It reflects psychology. Their unconscious minds have already been in dialogue. This may explain why some bonds defy logic. You may not share the same history or even the same language, yet their presence either brings peace to your inner conflict or stirs it awake. These encounters are rarely effortless. The people we are meant to meet are not always the ones we are fully prepared for, and yet they do not arrive to complete you. They come to guide you back to yourself, to awaken the identity that has been hidden beneath years of pretending, pleasing, and simply surviving. Jung believed the soul understands far more than the conscious mind. When we encounter someone whose soul resonates in the same key, we sense it before we can explain it. In a glance, a sentence, even a shared silence. It is not fantasy, it is alignment. If you have ever met someone and felt as though you have been waiting a lifetime to find them, perhaps there is a reason. But here is the truth Jung might quietly remind us of. Meeting that soul is not enough. You must be prepared for the connection. Without readiness, you may overlook the gift and see them as just another stranger. Soul connections require that you first be connected to yourself. Only then can you truly recognize and meet another. Now, let us explore how the universe appears to participate in these meaningful encounters through what Jung called synchronicity. Have you ever experienced a moment that felt too precisely timed to be accidental? A book falling from a shelf containing the exact answer you needed, or an unexpected meeting that shifted your direction entirely? Carl Jung described this phenomenon with a specific term, synchronicity. He defined it as a meaningful coincidence without a direct cause and effect explanation. For those who have experienced it, synchronicity is more than a theory. It feels like a signal, a quiet reminder that something greater may be unfolding behind the scenes. In the context of soul connections, synchronicity can be understood as the universe's way of saying, pay attention. Jung believed these moments reflect the psyche aligning the inner world with the outer one. You feel prepared, and suddenly the person appears. You begin to heal, and unexpectedly they return. Not simply by accident, but because the unconscious has drawn the moment forward. There are accounts of two individuals raised miles apart who shared the same recurring dream, or a couple who met while traveling after both had changed their original plans. There may be no clear logic, yet there is meaning. This is how such connections form, not through careful planning, but through a natural pull, like gravity between hearts that somehow remain connected. Jung observed similar patterns in his clinical work, where patients described dream symbols that later manifested in real life. He understood that the unconscious communicates through images. And when two unconscious minds resonate, external circumstances often begin to shift. Synchronicity does more than bring two people together. It also prepares you. It guides you on where to focus, when to pause, and when to feel rather than overanalyze. In those moments when time seems suspended and events align with unusual precision, you begin to recognize that you are not pursuing destiny. You are moving in step with it. So the next time something feels unusually aligned, perfectly timed, or deeply meaningful, do not dismiss it. It may be your soul reaching outward and something responding in return. Next, let's examine why these connections often carry such a powerful sense of familiarity, as if you met them in another life, or perhaps in another dream. When you meet them, it can feel like looking into a mirror you never knew existed. It's more than recognition, it's revelation. Carl Jung believed that in every profound relationship, we do not only meet the other person, we meet ourselves. The right soul does not complete you. They reflect you, your deepest hopes, your hidden fears, and your untapped potential. This is the interplay of the anima and animus, Jung's archetypes of the inner feminine and masculine. When you encounter someone who embodies your opposite archetype, there is a magnetic pull, not just of attraction, but of awakening. You feel truly seen, not for what you do, but for who you are. They finish your sentences, understand your silences, and their presence brings forward parts of yourself you may have forgotten or never dared to reveal. It is both terrifying and beautiful, because it is not merely that they understand you, it is that they make you see yourself. But the sacredness runs deeper. They do not only reflect your light, they reveal your shadow as well. The parts of you that are fearful, insecure, or jealous. This is why these soul connections feel so intense. They do not flatter your ego, they challenge it. You feel as though you've known them forever because your psyche has already danced with theirs, through dreams, the unconscious, and the collective memory that exists beyond time. Jung described the soul as ancient. When we encounter someone who carries the echo of our soul shape, it is not a beginning, it is a reunion. So, if someone has ever made you feel simultaneously alive and afraid, awakening both your passion and your wounds, they were not just another person. They were a mirror, sacred, unsettling, unforgettable. And what you do with that reflection shapes everything. Next, we will explore what happens when that reflection arrives at what feels like the wrong time, when timing tests the strength of destiny. Part 4. The timing illusion, when the right soul appears at the wrong time. What happens when the right person comes at the wrong time? You meet. The pull is undeniable. The connection feels electric. Yet something feels off. One of you is not ready. One is still healing. One may still belong to someone or somewhere else. Suddenly, destiny seems cruel. Carl Jung would argue that there is no wrong time, only unready souls. Timing is not measured by the clock. It is measured by consciousness. Some soul connections arrive not to stay, but to awaken you, to serve as a mirror, a spark, or a guide, not yet a home. You might wonder, why would life give something so real only to take it away? But that is the illusion. Life does not take. Life reveals. Perhaps the purpose was never to hold them, but to become the person you needed to be, so that when the connection returns or when the next soul appears, you are no longer half-formed. Jung wrote, "The self reveals itself in stages. That inner transformation must precede outer union. If you are not yet whole, you will project, idealize, and demand from the other what you have not yet given yourself. So the so-called wrong time is sacred. It is the moment the soul says, not yet, not because it refuses connection, but because it seeks union without causing harm. Sometimes the most profound love stories begin with a pause, a separation, a silence that allows the self to ripen. If they are truly part of your soul's journey, time will not erase them. Instead, it will prepare you. Let's explore why these destined encounters carry such weight. Not for comfort, but for transformation. We often assume soulmates exist to make us happy. Carl Jung would disagree. He would say they arrive to make us whole. The true purpose of soul connection is not peace. It is growth. When you meet a soul that resonates with yours, you do more than fall in love. You awaken. The masks you've worn suddenly feel heavy. The lies you've told yourself become louder. The life you've settled for begins to feel too small. Why? Because this person sees through you, and more importantly, invites you to see yourself. Jung believed that profound relationships act as catalysts. They ignite transformation, press against the unconscious, and reveal who you are by showing you who you are not. At times, this process is gentle. At times, it is intense, but it is always necessary. These connections are not accidents. They are assignments, not to fix each other, but to illuminate each other. You discover where you cling, where you hide, and where you compromise yourself in the name of love. If you pay attention, you begin the sacred work of returning to your center. Jung said, "The path to the self always involves confrontation with your shadow, your ego, and your fears." Soulmates, above all, are those who guide you through these confrontations with both compassion and fire. If someone ever shattered your illusions, triggered your healing, and left you breathless, not just from love, but from awakening, do not dismiss it. That was never just a person. That was a lesson. Now, let's explore what happens after the storm, when two souls, broken open by time and growth, are drawn back together. What happens when two souls destined to meet must part? It feels cruel, as if life is playing a trick. One moment the connection is electric. The next, silence, distance, loss. You may wonder if the bond was real. Why did it break? Carl Jung would say, it didn't break. It transformed. Some soul connections must separate not to end, but to evolve. Time apart is not failure. Sometimes it is the only way to grow. Within the connection, it's hard to see yourself, but once alone, truly alone, you begin to hear the whispers of your own soul again. Through that solitude, you change. You individuate, a term Jung used for the process of becoming whole. Without that wholeness, any reunion would only repeat old patterns, the same fears, the same projections. The universe creates this space, not as punishment, but as preparation. Here lies the paradox. The deeper the bond, the greater the pressure. It cracks open the self and demands growth. Sometimes that growth cannot occur side by side. But if the connection is rooted in truth, not ego, not fantasy, it will return. Not in the same form, but in a richer one. Because now you are not two broken people clinging to a spark. You are two whole beings choosing to meet again. If someone has walked away and their echo still lingers, it may not be over. It is simply shifting. Allow it. Separation does not end a soul bond. It refines it. Next, let's examine how these connections extend far beyond romance and appear in unexpected ways. When we hear the word soulmate, we often think of lovers, the one, the great love. But Carl Jung would remind us that the soul is far broader than that. Some soulmates arrive as partners, others as friends. Some stay only briefly, yet they leave lasting fingerprints on our lives. Jung believed that every soul we connect with deeply serves a psychological purpose. They awaken something we had lost, deliver a message we were ready to hear, and mirror a truth we cannot see on our own. Consider the mentor who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. The friend who silently stayed by your side during your darkest hour, yet made you feel fully seen. The stranger who spoke a single sentence that shifted your entire perspective. These are soul ties. They are not always wrapped in romance. Often, they come through silence, timing, or presence. Some people remain in your heart long after they have left your life. Not to accompany you forever, but to remind you who you are. Jung understood that the psyche does not focus on labels. It responds to meaning, energy, and resonance. Do not limit your understanding of soul connection. That teacher who shaped your voice, the sibling whose bond feels unbreakable, the brief encounter that lingers in your dreams. All of it is real. The soul does not measure connection in years or titles. It measures it in depth. Now, let's venture deeper into the hidden realm where these connections often begin. The dream world and the unconscious. Some people meet in coffee shops, others in dreams. Carl Jung believed the unconscious was not a chaotic space, but a realm of profound intelligence, a language of symbols, images, and sensations that speaks in silence long before words arrive. It is often in this hidden dimension that soul connections first take root. You dream of a face you have never seen, yet it feels familiar. You wake with a name on your lips. You see their eyes in your sleep before meeting them in reality. These are not hallucinations. They are preparations. Jung developed active imagination, a method of engaging the unconscious as a guide. He believed dreams are not random. They are messages, maps, and clues about who we are becoming and who we are meant to meet. He recorded instances where people dreamed of strangers only to meet them months or years later in real life. Jung interpreted this not as magic, but as soul memory, a deep knowing embedded within the psyche. When two souls are destined, they may meet long before their bodies do, in visions, dreams, and inexplicable feelings. And when they finally meet in reality, it is not surprise you feel. It is recognition. You already know them because a part of you met them long ago in a realm without clocks, doubt, or distance. So if someone keeps appearing in your dreams, thoughts, or meditations, do not ignore it. That may be the soul whispering. They are coming. Prepare. Time fades many things, memories, feelings, even people, but not everything. Carl Jung believed that the self, our truest center, exists beyond time. When two selves recognize one another, that resonance is eternal. Have you ever felt it? Years pass, lives change. You move on, they move on, yet something remains. A song triggers a memory. A city echoes their voice. That enduring feeling is not nostalgia. It is eternal resonance. The proof that a true soul bond cannot be erased by time. A dream brings them back. And for a moment, time seems to fold in on itself. They are here, not as obsession, not as longing, but as resonance. When two souls connect at the level of the self, not the ego, their bond does not fade with absence. It lingers, evolves, and becomes part of who you are. Jung believed that such connections are stored by the unconscious, not as memories, but as living energy. You may not speak again, you may never reunite, but the impact remains. You are moved, and there is no returning to what you were before. So if you ever wonder, why can't I forget them? Perhaps the question is not about forgetting at all. Some bonds are meant to stay, not to haunt, but to guide. The soul never loses what it truly remembers. Now we arrive at the ultimate truth. What must happen within you for a real soul connection to be fully seen, received, and lived? Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Only from that place of wholeness can you recognize the soul you are meant to meet. Until then, you are not seeing them. You are seeing projections, needs, hopes, and shadows. But when you are whole, not perfect, but integrated, you no longer cling. You recognize. You do not chase, you resonate." Jung called this process individuation, becoming a complete self, unshaped by wounds or roles, anchored in truth. From this space, love is no longer a search. It is a meeting, a quiet moment when you cross paths with someone whose soul feels as natural as your own breath. This time, you do not collapse into them. You stand beside them. No fear, no desperation, no illusions, just presence. When you have met yourself fully, you no longer need another to complete you, but you can finally receive them, fully, without illusion, without fear. That is when destiny opens. Two whole souls, one silent recognition, and time holds no power over